this video, I'm going to show how the MS3 will read the stock gear position sensor on any of the Suzuki motorcycles, any of the late model ones anyway, and display it on. I've got a gear indicator here on the dash. It'll display it up there. So we'll go through it here by hand and see what it does. There's first. There's second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. And sixth. And there's neutral. Now to interface the Suzuki gear position sensor with the MS3, I just built just a simple 0 to 5 volt circuit, and we used the one of the wires coming from the GPS sensor, and because it's a variable ohm through each gear, so it just goes from 0 to 5 volts on our input. And our screen to set it up is under advanced engine, speed and gear sensors, and you can see our voltages here on the side. These are the standard voltages that are in the firmware. And you can see I got the input set on JS4. We can choose all kinds of different inputs for it, but I just got ADC7 set as that because that's just a spare one I've got. But the standard voltages that come in the firmware are correct for the gear position sensor on the Suzuki's. To read it, we're waiting now, we're not really waiting, but soon we should have the shift kill stuff added to the firmware from James. It's too cold for me to do any testing or anything on it, so I'm in no big hurry for it right now. But it should be added soon, and with the gear position sensor being able to be read, we can have independent gear cuts for each gear. It'd be the same as the add-on that I wrote in the firmware for the sequential firmware that Gene put out. I added some extra stuff in the firmware so we could have ignition kill by gear for the air shifter and some other stuff in the MS2 firmware. So it should be the same as that. But you should be able to use this input with just about any kind of gear sensor as long as it's a variable ohm. So you can go, so it'll just read from 0 to 5 volts per gear. So it's a pretty easy interface, but it works pretty good.